What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Digital World Acquisition stock, ticker symbol DWAC, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Tuesday, February 20th. Well, guys, DWAC stock here on Friday finished the day down about $2 a share, 4%. Let's take a look at this name again on a number of different time frames and try to get really contextual as we head into Tuesday, laying out kind of both sides of the ball, so to speak. First of all, hey, if you guys get value out of these videos, you want to see me cover DWAC stock even more often than I already do, please let me know in the comments section. And also, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. My goal is 1,000 subs by market open Tuesday. I think we can knock that out. So starting here on DWAC, we're going to get to more like well-rounded macro looking to Tuesday. But first, what I want to do is just really briefly take a look at the 1-minute chart for some intraday opportunity that we could look to grab come Tuesday as well to try to scalp, generate some revenue around a core position. If you're going to be active in the market, I think it's important to at least attempt to do so. Now, what's also really important to understand is most setups in my personal playbook, I'm a scalper at heart. This is what I do every single day. So you'll find that all intraday traders, they have a playbook. Okay, and most in my playbook and basically all of the traders who trade consistently and make money, whether that be part-time or especially full-time, they all have substantially more edge, expected value over time in stocks that are in play. Okay. Now, interestingly, the backbone setup in my playbook, or one of my backbone setups, the primary setup that I teach, every single trading day to members in the Roensch Capital Gold server, I have called it the repeat offender setup. It's a setup that I developed over time, and it does have edge, whether or not the stock is in play itself, because the setup is in play. But the majority of other setups are going to have very much more so substantial edge to a drastic degree in stocks that are in play. Fresh news catalyst, elevated relative volume, big range, a lot of interest, trending on social media, things like that. So as far as Friday is concerned for intraday opportunity on DWAC, sure, it was moving 4%. It's not a massive day. I mean, DWAC, we've seen much crazier things, right? And unfortunately, there weren't really any at least clean repeat offender setups. So I'm watching this one every day because when this stock is in play, I mean, you can generate a lot of revenue around a core position just scalping this thing in and out all day long. This name has offered significant edge, especially when liquidity is high. So I'm always watching it. Unfortunately, Friday, though, just not really so in play. However, that $50 technical area, when there's a lot of volume around that, or that psychological area more so, when there's a lot of volume and we're really hammering that area trying to decide which direction to go, this thing can also become in play just due to that, right? So let's move on, looking more ahead toward to Tuesday, and start by looking at the 5-minute chart here. And what I'm looking for is elevated volume, okay, that correlates with big moves in stock price. Because that tells us that a particular sample size or a big sample size of the market agrees with a particular sentiment more than the other, even given an equal stock price. It's a concept that I think a lot of newer traders struggle to grasp, but that is something that we want to keep an eye out for. So what we're looking for is big changes in volume that correlate with moves in price. So you see here, big volume off the open. We have to understand contextually that makes sense, right? That's an everyday thing, and this is not big enough to be considered not contextual anymore. You see, we have elevated volume on this one red candle. Listen, bulls, understand that the bears are going to look at that and say, oh, I like that. Okay, but then you also had elevated volume on these two kind of bounce back up toward open price candles. We had elevated volume, kind of a mixed bag into the close in power hour. So listen, it'd be a force to sit here and try to pull anything out of this 5-minute, more so than we already have. So let's just move on. Let's get contextual about the real psychological self-fulfilling prophecy levels heading into Tuesday. This is what I'm watching. Okay, let's start on the 30-minute. Super common, The most popular, you notice how my charts are relatively simple, especially when we get out to like the 30-minute, 4-hour, and daily. That's because all I want are the most popular indicators. The 50 period, that white line, and the 200 period moving average, that gray line. You know, that's them. Those are the most popular here. So what I'm looking for from a bullish perspective, in particular on the 30-minute chart here come Tuesday, if we see a downside test of the 200 period, I want to see that hold. Okay, very strong. If we see an upside test of the 50 period, it's right below 50 bucks a share. I want to see us rip up through that, retest it, and hold that as support. All right, if you're a bear looking at this, hard rejection off a test of the 50 period ideally, and then that same deal downside with the 200 period, breakdown through, retest, hold as resistance, and then fade. Okay, let's move on to the 4-hour. Take a look here. You can see that 50 period, the white line is very much so in play. Looking ahead to Tuesday, here's what I'm looking for. Test of that from a bullish perspective, easy. Continue this thing moving upside, bounce up off that, hold that as support. That can help push us up through 50. Now, if you're a bear, one thing on the 4-hour, break downside through that 50 period ideally, and fade as hard as possible away. You see here back on the 13th, we did just that, but then reclaimed it within a couple of days. Okay, on high volume too. Bulls, take note of that. That high volume, you know, on the reclaim day, that's a positive thing to see. All right, let's now take a look at arguably the most important chart. That's going to be the daily. All right, so you can see here, there's really no moving averages. The closest one is that 50-day down at 28. So we have to look at what's the most obvious thing. Okay, I am always looking at the most obvious story on each chart. There is no reason, you know, TA in my head, this whole channel is dedicated to charts, right? And I am of the belief, the strong belief, that TA is nothing more, nothing less than a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so the second you start overcomplicating it, you're just dwindling down the amount of people, funds, institutions, and algorithms that are looking at what you're looking at. So I always go with the most obvious story, with the most obvious indicators, which are not many. Okay, the obvious story here on DWAC on the daily chart, which is the most popular chart. 50 is a psychological level. If I'm a bull, I'm thinking one thing come Tuesday. Reclaim 50 bucks a share. That's it. I don't care if we close at 50 and 5 cents. 55 would be even better, right? If I'm a bull. Just reclaim 50 though. And if I'm a bear, I'm thinking one thing. Reject as hard as possible off 50 and fade as low as we can go. Okay? Very simple. No reason to overcomplicate it because that's what everybody's thinking. Okay? Let's finish out here by taking a look at the bias in the chain. You can see it's a heavy, heavy bias. We have 54,000 total contracts traded on Friday. This is just from Friday as we head into Tuesday, positioning as we head into Tuesday. So you'll notice here that the sample size, the volume, we can't expect millions of contracts on DWAC, but the lower the volume goes, the more of a grain of salt you have to take this data with. Just understand that because one big trader can throw it off. But this is pretty common with DWAC to see big bias. 43,000 calls, 11,000 puts. Heavy, heavy call bias here on the overall. If we start breaking down by time frame, you have the short-term speculators. That's going to be that 0 to 20 delta range here. 16,000 calls, almost 17,000. And just under 7,000 puts. Heavy call bias there. You look at every other time frame. Out of the money, at the money, in the money. Okay, that's the short-term, mid-term, long-term. They're all leaning heavy, heavy call bias, but volume is low. Okay, so understand that and just take that with a grain of salt. Listen, again, if you guys get value out of these videos, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.